A'udhu billah minash shaitan rajim. We seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Salamun alaikum. Peace be upon you. God willing, today we want to start the third session of studying the appendices of Quran, the Final Testament, translated by Dr. Rashad Khalifa, PhD, the Messenger of the Covenant. In the past two sessions, we talked about the simple facts which are easy to understand. They're simple to understand, but impossible to imitate about number 19. For example, the count of the word God in the Quran, the addition of the number of the verses where the word God is occurring, as well as 19 facts that we talked about in details in the previous session. God willing, today we want to talk about the section with the subtitle The Literary Mathematical Composition. The Quran is characterized by a unique phenomenon never found in any other book. 29 surahs are prefixed with 14 different sets of Quranic initials, consisting of 1 to 5 letters per set. 14 letters, half the Arabic alphabet, participate in these initials. The significance of the Quranic initials remained a divinely guarded secret for 14 centuries. So, in the previous session, we talked in detail about these 14 Arabic alphabet, as well as 14 different sets of Quranic initials and where they are prefixed. And if you want to get a detailed understanding of these initials, you need to go to the previous session and look at it, because we have already talked about them. But to give you a brief summary, we have 29 chapters, 29 surahs in the Quran, that they are prefixed with mysterious letters, previously mysterious letters, but right now we know what is the usage of these letters. For example, chapter 2, the heifer, starts with ALM, in Arabic, Alif Lam Mim. Or chapter 7, the purgatory, starts with Alif Lam Mim Sad. Or chapter 13, thunder, starts with Alif Lam Mim Ra. So ALMR. These are the closest representation of the Arabic alphabet in English, and they are mentioned in this table. And so there are 14 Arabic alphabet, half of the Arabic language alphabet inventory, and they make up 14 different sets of initials that previously in the previous session I already talked about them. And they prefix 29 surahs, and it is mentioned here. Now, God willing, we will continue with the next paragraph. The Quran states in chapter 10, verse 20, and chapter 25, verses 4 to 6, that its miracle, that is, proof of divine authorship, was destined to remain secret for a specific predetermined entry. So these are the verses 10, 20, and 25, 4 to 6. We can take a look at them here. 10:20. They say, how come no miracle came down to him from his Lord? Say, the future belongs to God, so wait, and I am waiting along with you. And if we look at the footnote which is given for this verse, we see that in retrospect, we see now the Quran's miracle, indeed one of the greatest miracles, mentioned in chapter 74, verses 30 to 35, was divinely predestined to be unveiled 14 centuries after Muhammad. In view of the current condition of the traditional Muslims, if Muhammad had been given this miracle, those Muslims who are already idolizing Muhammad beside God would have worshipped him as God incarnate. Additionally, this miracle is obviously designed for the computer age and to be appreciated by mathematically sophisticated generations. And this was chapter 10, verse 20, and now chapter 25, verses 4 to 6. Those who disbelieve said, this is a fabrication that he produced, Muhammad, right? With the help of some other people. They have uttered a blasphemy and a falsehood. They also said tales from the past that he wrote down. They were dictated to him day and night. And the last verse say, this was revealed by the one who knows the secret in the heavens and the earth. He is forgiving, most merciful. And we have two footnotes for these two verses. Footnote 25:5. Muhammad's contemporaries knew that he was a literate man who could read and write. He wrote God's revelations with his own hand. And this is mentioned in detail in Appendix 28, that God willing, in due time, we will get to it. The footnote for verse 25:6, the Quran's miraculous mathematical code, the incontrovertible answer to the disbelievers' claims, remained a divinely guarded secret for 1400 years. God's messenger of the covenant was destined to unveil it by God's leave. And we have the details in Appendices 1, 2, and 26. That one we are just studying right now. 2 and 26, God willing, we will get to in the future sessions. And God's messenger of the covenant was Dr. Rashad Khalifa. Now, going back to the PDF, we see that the same two verses are mentioned here, the verse from 10:20 and the verses 4 to 6 from chapter 25 are mentioned here. So we move on. The Quranic initials constitute a major portion of the Quran's 19-based mathematical miracle. Now, we will talk about this, what this is, in the section which starts with the Quranic initial, starting with Surah Qaf. But before that, there is a historical background here that, God willing, I will read. Historical background. In 1968, I realized, goes back to Dr. Rashad Khalifa. In 1968, I realized that the existing English translations of the Quran did not present the truthful message of God's final testament. For example, the two most popular translators, Yusuf Ali and Marmaduke Pickthall, could not overcome their corrupted religious traditions when it came to the Quran's great criterion in 3945. And let's look at what is 3945, translated by Dr. Rashad Khalifa, and how these two translators have basically translated it. So, the translation that Dr. Rashad Khalifa provided for us. When God alone is mentioned, the hearts of those who do not believe in the hereafter shrink with aversion. But when others are mentioned beside him, they rejoice. So this is mentioned in chapter 39, verse 45. Now let's see how Yusuf Ali has translated and how Marmaduke Pickthall has translated this verse and what is missing from their translations. Yusuf Ali omitted the crucial word alone from his translation and altered the rest of the verse by inserting the word gods with a small g. Thus, he utterly destroyed this most important Quranic criterion, right? When God alone is mentioned. He translated 3945 as follows. So let's look at his translation, Yusuf Ali. When God, the one and only, is mentioned, the hearts of those who believe not in the hereafter are filled with disgust and horror. But when gods other than he are mentioned, behold, they are filled with joy. So if you look at this translation, you see that it says when God, the one and only. So when you say God, the one and only, it means that the one and only God that we have. True. But it's not stating the fact that this verse is talking about God alone, meaning that only mentioning God and not mentioning any other name besides God, right? So this person, Yusuf Ali, Abdullah Yusuf Ali, was a Indian British scholar and translator. He had some Sunni background, and his background, his traditional background, affected his way of looking at the translation of this verse. And if you look at the Arabic text, for example, here, you would see that it is mentioned, وَإِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ. Wahdahu means alone. In Arabic, it means alone. It doesn't mean one and only. It means alone. And if you check it in another part, you see that it is mentioned Quran wahdahu, Quran alone, right? So this wahdahu doesn't mean one and only, it means alone. So this is how he messed it up, and he has added something else, gods. So you see that there is a mistranslation here, and when this is happening, you change the meaning of the verses. And if you change the meaning of the verses, you take away the meaning which is intended by the verses of Quran. Now let's go to the next one. First of all, there's a description of this here in more details in the words of Dr. Rashad Khalifa, and then we move on to the next translator. The expression when God, the one and only, is mentioned is not the same as saying when God alone is mentioned. One can mention God, the one and only, and also mention Muhammad or Jesus, and no one will be upset. But if God alone is mentioned, you cannot mention anyone else. And a lot of people, those who idolize Muhammad or Jesus, will be upset. Thus, Yusuf Ali could not bring himself to present the truth of the Quran if it exposed his corrupted belief. Now let's go to Marmaduke Pickthall, another translator of Quran. Marmaduke Pickthall translated alone correctly, but destroyed the criterion by inserting his personal belief in parentheses. He translated 3945 as follows. And when Allah alone is mentioned, see, he has translated this one correctly, right? Allah is the Arabic word for God. And wahdahu, he has translated as alone. And when Allah alone is mentioned, the hearts of those who do not believe in the hereafter are repelled. And when those whom they worship beside him are mentioned, behold, they are glad. Now let's see what is wrong with this translation. He has added something here, whom they worship, right? Those whom they worship. We don't have that in the original text. And when we don't have in that original text, we're not allowed to add something to the translation without the authorization of God, right? So these people were not like messengers of God or anybody, and they were just like simple Muslims who were like traditional Muslims, Sunni Muslims, who were trying to translate Quran based on their corrupted religious beliefs, which was actually rooting from the hadith, the hearsays attributed to Prophet Muhammad, fabrications attributed to Prophet Muhammad. So they were actually trying to translate the verses of Quran based on those understandings from the fabrications which were actually attributed to Prophet Muhammad. So they mess up the meaning greatly if you look at other translations as well by these people, especially Marmaduke Pickthall and Yusuf Ali. Now let's move on. God willing, I will continue. When I saw the truth of God's word thus distorted, I decided to translate the Quran. So this is the word of Dr. Rashad Khalifa. At least for the benefit of my own children. Since I was a chemist by profession, and despite my extensive religious background, my father was a renowned Sufi leader in Egypt. I vowed to God that I would not move from one verse to the next unless I fully understood it. So it's very easy. If you search Rashad Khalifa, on the net, you will see the picture of Dr. Rashad Khalifa, and there's a Wikipedia. You can study it on your own, and there's a lot of information about Dr. Khalifa, and his profession was he was a biochemist. He was a doctor. He had a PhD in biochemistry, and he was originally from Egypt. And he came to the United States and became a naturalized citizen, and obviously became an Egyptian American biochemist, right? So this is a short, brief background about who he was. Now, let's continue. I purchased all the available books of Quranic translations and exegesis, tafsir, right? Interpretations, books of interpretation on the verses of Quran I could find, placed them on a large table, and began my translation. The first surah, the key, was completed in a few days. So the key is this surah. If you go to, for example, Quran.com, you will see that this is the first surah called The Key. And it's a very short surah, 7 verses. And this is the surah or chapter that submitters to God alone read it during their contact prayers every day in each and every unit of prayer. So this is a very short surah, and it was translated by Dr. Rashad Khalifa in a very short period of time, in a few days. The first verse in Surah 2 is ALM, or Aleph Lam Mim. So let's take a look at it. If you go to Surah 2, you see that there's the Arabic here, Surah Al-Baqarah, the heifer. It starts with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. But there is a mysterious set of letters here, Aleph Lam Mim, that I talked about these actually in the previous session as well as the beginning of this session as well. So let's see what happened to this. The translation of this verse took 4 years, 4 years, because he didn't know what it meant, right? And coincided with the divine unveiling of the secret, the great mathematical miracle of the Quran. The book of Quranic exegesis unanimously agreed that no one knows the meaning or significance of the Quranic initials ALM or any other initials, the initials that we talked about in the beginning of these 29 surahs. They were mysterious at that time. I decided to write the Quran into the computer, analyze the whole text, and see if there were any mathematical correlations among these Quranic initials. He used a computer at that time, obviously, to code Quran into the computer and start analyzing the text to see what pattern is going to emerge from these initials. You know, he didn't know what he was looking for at that time. I used a timeshare terminal connected by telephone to a giant computer. To test my hypothesis, I decided to look at the single-lettered Quranic initials, Q, Qaf, for Surah, in the beginning of Surahs 42 and Surah 50, Sad of Surahs 7, 19, and 38, and Noon of Surah 68. So this was the beginning of his research. As detailed in my first book, Miracle of the Quran, Significance of the Mysterious Alphabets, Islamic Productions, 1973, many previous attempts to unravel the mystery had failed. So this is the beginning of the explanation about the significance of these initials. And God willing, in the next episode, I'm going to delve deeper into this because it needs its own time. And God willing, we will talk about it in the next session. Thank you so much for listening to me and following these episodes. And may God bless you. Salamun alaikum. Peace be upon you.